In Florida in the 90s, user That's My Box got an offer by a local landlord to rent a home for super cheap. Her being 19 and excited to start her new life, she jumped on the deal. Catch? It's Daniel Christensen's house. He's left behind. Well, some things she'd have to clean out first. She described DC's, or Daniel Christensen's home, to me as filthy, cluttered, and strange to say the least. In the living room, there was just one single desk sitting alone, with no other furniture around. Along the rest of the house were books about the out-of-body experiences and other strange works, as well as mounds of drawings, writings, papers, charts, and blueprints. The list goes on and on. According to That's My Box, the box we've clung to as the collection of DC's works is, quote, not even 0.1% of what is inside the house. Her initial reaction, as I hope you can all empathize with, was panic and fear. To her, these strange things were evil and were in the way of her starting a new life. She also stated that at some point, and I will go back and clarify this for all of you conspiracy nuts out there, 2 men in black suits were peering into her house, causing her and her friend to run in fear. Upon coming back with male friends to see who these guys were, they were gone. This is an eyewitness report from 20 years ago at 10 p.m. at night. Not to discredit the witness, but let's keep our heads screwed on straight for a minute until we get more evidence. Regardless, this was enough to panic her into throwing all of DC's works out. She had 2 of her friends come and take all of the works to the dump. Well, unbeknown to her, her friends thought that the works were pretty cool and either kept them or gave them away to friends across Florida. Fast forward several years, and That's My Box walks into a friend of hers' home and freezes upon the sight of one of DC's paintings hanging on the wall. In her shock, her friend explains how he got it when some buddies were throwing things out of this crazy guy's house. Upon finding out that she was the original owner, the friend gives the box and some other contents back to her. So the box found its way back. Now older and less afraid, her and her husband took more time to figure out what these things were. It became a conversation piece in their home, as you could imagine. She's had a couple of pastors and engineering students look at it. Their reactions were always amazement. Terminology and density of the writings made it too difficult for them to decipher, though. Years go by and she set out to move to North Carolina. They're halfway there and they say, quote, "Oh my God, we forgot the box. Of all things, we forgot the box." The box was, according to her, hidden in the basement. They called the landlord of the home and he claimed that everything had been thrown out. That is when Reddit user Dirty Gremlin found it next to the trash bin and had user TramStopDan photograph it and upload it to Reddit. Unbeknownst to this community, That's My Box still had a large manuscript and blueprints detailing how, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, That's My Box and her husband are sitting there looking at the DC contents that they didn't leave behind, which consists of a large transcript and some other works. They sat there complaining about how they'll never figure this stuff out, and that's when their friend says, quote, "Look it up on the internet." They laugh, saying they've been there and done that through the years, contacting a physicist on AOL chat and him basically telling them it's all a bunch of hoodiddy and not to contact them again. To their amazement, after Googling DC's name, their young friends turn his phone screen to show him this subreddit and the photographs on the box, which they had thought were their little secret all of these years. Some of you had mentioned how paranoid and crazy That's My Box seems. Well, she's actually quite sane. I hope you can all understand. She was a little voodooed by all of this. Okay, so there's new DC works that she can upload and more to find around the Florida area. But are you ready for the kicker? In DC's bedroom, there was a machine. Large wooden craft. There was a seat, slots perfectly carved out to fit his hands, and according to her, it looked well used. It had spinning spheres from her description looked a lot like the diorama designs that we have now. It's with this machine that DC claimed that he traveled through time, and I'm assuming also claims to have communicated with aliens. The manuscript that That's My Box owns describes in detail how to build this machine, how to time travel, and how to have out-of-body experiences. Even what diet to eat before preparing yourself to travel. You name it. So what I'm trying to say is that at one point in time on this blue dot of ours existed a living, breathing, alien Puma space train. And That's My Box also happens to have detailed blueprints. So another piece of this puzzle is that a lot of what he described with his manuscripts, drawings, and blueprints looks a lot like a Bible verse from Ezekiel. Let me read this to you as we go out on this episode of Mysteries of the Internet. The word of the Lord came expressly into Ezekiel the priest, son of Buzi, the land of the Chaldeans, by the river of Shebar, and the hand of the Lord there upon him. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it. Out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst of fire. Also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. This was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man. Every one had 4 faces, and every one had 4 wings. Their feet were straight feet. The sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. They had the hands of a man under their wings on the 4 sides, and they 4 had their faces and their wings. Their wings were joined to another, and they turned not when they went every one straight forward. For the likeness of their faces, they 4 had the face of a man, and the face of a lion on the right. They 4 had the face of an ox on the left, and also of an eagle. Thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched upward. 2 wings of every one were joined one to another, and 2 covered their bodies. They went every one straight forward, whither the Spirit was to go. They went, and they turned not when they went. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. It went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. And the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of the flash of lightning. Now I beheld the living creatures. Behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creatures with his 4 faces. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the collar of a barrel. They had one likeness. Their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel.